All right, this is a test for the live stream. This is a test of the live stream on YouTube. Testing YouTube. This is going to echo.
When you're going to speak, if you press it, it'll light up red. And when you're done speaking, just utilize those in your board meeting. Oh, but And I violated my own rules, right? Good morning, everyone. After I went through that, all that technology to say, this is how it works, and I didn't do it. So there you go. I'm telling on myself. It's fine. We're just waiting on one other person to get here, but I think we can at least have our Pledge of Allegiance, and I can probably do some updates on some things that are going on that are not necessary to have a quorum. So if everyone would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So if everybody's okay, we'll just go a little out of order. Yeah, do you have it? Here we go. Well, well, I guess we'll go in order then. Good morning, sir. Can you certify that we have a quorum by roll call?
Town of Ashland, Mr. Hodges.
Here.
Mr. McGraw. Charles City County, Mr. Atkins.
Here.
Chesterfield County, Chair Carroll.
Here.
Mr. Winslow. Goochland County, Mr. Spoonhour.
Here.
Ms. Lascalette. Hanover County, Mr. Peterson.
Here.
Mr. Davis. Henrico County, Mr. Thornton.
Here.
Miss O'Bannon. New Kent County, Miss Page.
Here.
Powhatan County, Mr. Byerly.
Here.
Mr. McClung. City of Richmond, Mayor Stoney.
Here.
Dr. Newbill. House of Delegates, Delegate Robinson. Here. Senate, Senator McClellan. Commonwealth Transportation Board, Mr. Brown. All right, 1 second. Capital Region Airport Commission, Mr. Miller. GRTC, Miss Adams. RMTA, Miss Dean. DRPT, Ms. DeBrule. Here. VDOT, Mr. Britch. Mr. Riblet.
Here.
Virginia Port Authority, Mr. Edwards. Ms. Vick. Ms. Nelson. Here. Thank you. That concludes the roll call for attendance, and we do have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We have had one request, which I verified from Mr. Brown, who wants to and needs to actually view remotely. And so, I would accept the motion allowing him to do that. If everybody's okay with that. Motion's made. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Appreciate that. Looking at a couple of things, I guess I'll get to some other stuff in my report. That's coming up here. Does anybody have any, I'm assuming that everybody's had an opportunity to look at the agenda. Is there anybody who needs to or would like to propose any changes to the agenda? Not seeing none. We'll move on. As I'm hoping that everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes from the previous CVTA meeting, which was on September the 23rd, 2022. If anybody has no objection, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Thank you. Open public comment. Chet, would you read the statement for that?
Yes, sir. Thank you. This meeting is being held in person and via Zoom. A link to the Zoom webinar where individuals may register to participate is posted at the top of the agenda. Members of the public are invited to submit public comments either verbally or in writing. Written comments can be submitted through the Q&A and chat function on Zoom, which is at the bottom of the screen, or to the email address at the top of the agenda. Written comments will be read aloud or summarized during the meeting when possible and will be included in the meeting minutes. Verbal comments can be taken at this time. Please indicate by raising your hand for in-person participants or through the Q&A chat functions on Zoom for virtual participants if you would like to comment. When acknowledged by the chair, please clearly state your name so that it may be recorded in the meeting minutes.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a comment today? Would you come up? You can sit right here. And don't do what I did. Remember to press the red button and state your name and feel free to address the body.
Thank you very much. I'm Brantley Tyndall with the Sports Backers, director of our Bike Walk RVA program. And it's a pleasure to be with you here this morning. 12 months ago, this body approved $104 million for the Fall Line Trail, and it's been a real pleasure the past 12 months to work on the project with many people in the room and in the 7 localities of that 43-mile corridor. We're encouraged by the agenda today and the small appropriations for a plan that would at the forefront of any construction and the 5 to 8 years it's going to take to build this trail, to really think about what it's going to look like and what the user experience is going to be. How do we get to the different places along the way? And we look forward to being a good stakeholder and facilitator in what that look and feel looks like, and we're here to serve. So thank you very much. I also want to give a quick update about the state trails budget. I'm sure many of you are aware that the General Assembly appropriated $79 million of general fund money for a multi-use trail program and $14 million from federal money. The CTB has met the past 2 months and identified 5 priority projects across the Commonwealth, and the Fall Line has not been identified as a priority project. And I think many of us were looking at this budget as an opportunity to get additional funding. So I think we should work closely with the state to make sure that we are eligible and can get some funds from that source. That's all I wanted to share, and thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you very much. You hit the perfect. Well, the good thing is we actually have a member of the General Assembly here who's taking notes on that right now. So we appreciate your comments. Is there anybody else from the community, from the public, that would like to have a comment? This is the open comment period. All right, not seeing or hearing none. Chairman's report. I have, I think when y'all are gracious enough to allow me to have this position as chair, I had made a statement that I wanted to put together with staff, or have staff put it together because they did a fantastic job, a presentation that is designed to provide information to the community about the CVTA. The other night I had Joe Casey and I went to Powhatan's Board of Supervisors meeting. They were gracious enough to give us an opportunity to speak before their board. They actually had quite a few people attending your meeting the other night, which is good to see, by the way, to have people from the community there engaging with their elected leaders. And I thought the presentation went over well, and I hope it was received well. The input that I got that night from, as I was walking out, were community members shaking their head, "Hey, appreciate you being here." So we appreciate the hospitality from Powhatan the other night. Delegate Robinson had an opportunity to have me come before a Rotary the other morning, 7:30 in the morning. That was early, by the way. And of course, you know me, I can talk forever about how great the CVTA is, and she's finally like, but that is actually going to end up doing another presentation at another Rotary meeting, and we're also looking at doing a presentation in Ashland on November the 1st. We have Hanover on the schedule, and we're also working on doing a presentation at the Chamber Luncheon here in Chesterfield. It'll be tailored more, a little bit more for the Chamber crowd. But the point is that we're trying to get the word out, as I promised, to the community about the CVTA, and staff really did a great job on the presentation. And it's kind of a recap of where the CVTA, how it was created, where we were, where we've come from, and where we're heading. So that was, it's it's looking good so far. And then I also had the opportunity to represent you on a shared summit event that took place at the Dominion Center, downtown Richmond. And my role was to talk about the CVTA and the authority and the projects that we're working on and how it affects Central Virginia and how it makes us competitive, certainly statewide for funding. And I'm going to give Chet a second here to talk about, I actually had him represent the CVTA at another conference, if you could speak to that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have the pleasure of attending the VML conference a few weeks ago and sat on a panel with the executive directors from Northern Virginia Transportation Authority and Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission. You may have remembered they both have attended CVTA meetings in the past when the organization was being organized to talk about their experience. So it was a great opportunity for us to be in a room with important people from around the state to talk about how successful these authorities have been in garnering local dollars for transportation improvements that directly benefit the people of each of the three regions. So I'm looking forward to continuing that work with our partners around the state. I've been asked to develop an article for the next VML publication, so I'm excited about doing that. And then one other update, I've been asked to be on a panel at the Virginia Engineers Conference in a couple weeks down in, I believe it's in Hampton Roads, to talk about all the great work that we're doing here at CVTA.
Thank you, Chet. And I've also been asked to participate in a dialogue at the VACO conference coming up in November, on November the 14th, representing the CVTA with the Secretary of Transportation and others. So we look forward to that. And I do want to say this, part of, to speak to our former chair, but part of one of the things I'm talking to everybody about when I do these presentations is how well everybody in this committee has worked together and come together to promote transportation. So thank you. Moving forward, I'm going to ask for our financial committee chair to give his report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before I do, it's a personal privilege as a fellow Rotarian with Delegate Robinson. I hope you have learned one of the priorities of Rotary is brevity. That's the reason she cut you off so quickly. We have very limited time for speakers.
It is me.
Thank you, sir. As finance, we had the finance committee meeting here on the 12th, and very short but effective meeting. We did have some of the stuff I'm not going to talk because it's on the agenda later today, but the tax activities report, they did speak to us, went over the expenditure reports that they had been completed. Looking at the spending line on the Fall Line Trail, which is on today's agenda. So I will leave that to Ms. Clark when she speaks to that. And looking at the obligation phase of the regional project process is ongoing. So eligibility requirements and distribution of funds on regional scale is an item still being discussed. And we looked at that and there's a number of issues that still have to be ironed out on that, and we're going in the right direction. We did have the presentation of the audit, and I believe our auditors are here today as part of agenda there. The Finance Committee heard the presentation, and we did recommend approval by the full board of the audit coming forward. The project selection and allocation framework was presented. The fact that this is an ongoing issue with TAC, and again, Ms. Clark will be discussing that when she speaks to it. The next item that the Finance Committee looked at was reinitiating the CVTA Executive Director recruitment process, and which is on a timely basis. We were presented with 3 different options that will be discussed here today, but the Finance Committee has recommended that option 2, which requires us to look for an outside headhunter so to speak, for this position, but working in conjunction with the HR roundtable. And that is the recommendation of the Finance Committee to this board as far as the initiating the recruitment there. And basically that was the end of that's basically the end of our committee meetings.
Thank you for that report. I think there's a couple other things that we're going to ask Chet. I think you're going to give us some numbers on projections, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I wanted to point everyone's attention to the monthly investment report and the financial report in the agenda starting on page 14 through 16. I wanted to hone in on the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022 report on page 16. If you look on the far right column there, you can see that in the fiscal year that ended June 30th, we were able to realize over $70 million that went directly to our regional project fund. Over $30 million went directly to GRTC. And then the third component of our collections went directly back to each jurisdiction that sits around this table. And that was a total of a little under $103 million for the fiscal year. So this is our first really full year of collections across the entire 12-month period. And we're excited about where that's heading. Lifetime to date, I've been able to work with our partners in Chesterfield County to put these numbers together. We have seen 189 million, just under 190 million that's being collected for our regional fund and GRTC, and then that same amount that has gone out to our member jurisdictions since fiscal year 20. So with that, I want to also share a little bit of information that the chair has asked me to put together regarding the projections. We receive projections from the state each year, usually in the December timeframe. And I'm putting that on the screen for those following along. That started in December of 2020. So looking at the table on the screen, the first projection we had was for December of 2020. And I'm just putting in, I just included the first 3 years of numbers. We have actually the projections out to 2028, I believe. So December 2020 was our first report from the state. That was adjusted in January of 21. And then most recently in December of 21. So just about 11 months ago. We did see a slight decrease in the projections each time those projections were updated. But for the purposes of the discussion today, I wanted to stick with the latest projections from December of 21, showing an estimate of 181 million in fiscal year 22 and 193 million in fiscal year 23. So still growing each year. And then the bottom line there, we expect an update to those projections later in this calendar year so that we can continue that type of analysis. See if I can move the slides. There we go. So using that December of 21 estimate, I wanted to go in and see, based on the estimate, what did we actually collect? And how did those collections compare to what the state was working on in their modeling? As you can see in FY21, we actually had a smaller amount of revenues that actually came in through the gas and sales tax for a total of 137 million as compared to the 145 estimate. But in FY22, we had a significant increase in the actual revenues collected, over 200 million compared to the 181 that was estimated. And then in our first 2 years of reported revenues for FY23, we are seeing an increase. I projected that out over a full 12-month period, and we're seeing a similar trend to what we saw last year based on the data we have so far for FY23. So I think that's a positive sign. And we're looking forward to continuing to track this type of data as the CVTA ages, and we're able to commit these funds to doing good work in the region. Mr. Chair, that's the end of the financial report. I'd be happy to provide any answers to questions if the board has any.
Thank you. I think that we also have an update on the audit, I think would be next as well. But just want to say to the group, the reason why I asked for these numbers is because, we did approve a transportation package earlier in the year. And one of the discussions we had the last meeting pertains to, inflation and how it's going to affect the cost of those jobs, those particular projects that we put in. God bless you. And so the fact that we have some additional revenues coming in will help us to be able to hopefully absorb those shortfalls on what we've actually budgeted compared to what's actually going to cost. And now if I think our auditor is online with us, if we can get him to come up. You're on mute.
It's only been 2.5 years. Got to figure out how to hit that unmute button, but thank you, sir. Anyway, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee and the board. I'm at a conference this week, so I apologize for the dress. I did not pack a suit for the conference, but thank you for giving me just a few minutes here this morning. Actually, it's a conference that Mayor Stoney was the keynote speaker yesterday morning and gave the welcome address. So it was good seeing him there yesterday for that. But just real quickly on the audit, we did meet with the Finance Committee and went through the audit in a little more detail than we will here. It's not a large report, but it certainly has some large numbers in it. We were able to issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. So that is the clean opinions, the one you're looking for. In our work looking at compliance and internal controls, everything that we looked at there also looked great. So we have a clean report when it comes to internal controls and compliance. Working with the various individuals across the localities to complete our audit, all of our questions were answered, inquiries, observations we needed to do, any documents that we looked at were provided very timely and complete. So a very clean audit for CVTA for last year. We had no journal entries from the audit perspective. We had no problems conducting our audit and completing our field work. So everything went really well. And I appreciate just having a couple minutes here this morning to be able to deliver that to the full group. So with that, if anyone has any questions or observations, I'm happy to answer those now. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? And we're making sure everybody actually has a copy of the report.
Sure.
Right now, just so everybody have it. And I think it's.
Yeah, I can wait while we hand those out. And I know you won't have time to flip through it, but I am always available as you have time later today or over the weekend. If you do have questions on the report or anything that we've done, I'm happy to answer those questions at any time. Always open.
Did everybody get both parts? So there are actually two separate binders for this report. Yeah, the other one's over there, I think, on the table as well.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
The Finance Committee's recommendation is to approve the audit as presented.
Okay, so there's a recommendation from the Finance Committee in the form, that's in the form of since it was unanimous, that's in the form of a motion. So can we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Aye.
Mr. Atkins,
Aye.
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Mr. Spoonhour,
Aye.
Mr. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Thornton,
Aye.
Ms. Page,
Aye.
Mr. Byerly,
Aye.
Vice Chair Stoney, Delegate Robinson, Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call for that item and the motion passes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And now I think we have a report from Yvette George on the Executive Director Recruitment, and I believe she is remote.
Good morning, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carroll. Just wanted to kind of give just an overview of what was discussed before in regards to the reinitiating the executive search for the executive director for CVTA. And I am part of the HR roundtable. Again, I am Yvette George. I am currently the Human Resources Director for Henrico County. I don't know if the presentation was sent to this group, so I don't know if they have the presentation that we presented before.
That's
I
actually
believe
in
it
the
was.
packet.
It's in the packet. Okay. So if everybody has the packet, what you will see, it is basically the presentation from the HR roundtable that is titled "The Central Virginia Transportation Authority Continues to Recruit for the Position of Executive Director." Does everybody have that available right now?
We're all looking at it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to present this to you remotely. Well, what you're seeing in front of you on the second page, it is titled 2022 Recruitment Timeline. As indicated earlier in the meeting, there were 3 options that were presented. Option 1 is where the HR roundtable manages the process completely. Option 2 is to fully outsource the recruitment and selection process. And option 3 was a collaboration with the HR roundtable and the outsourcing the recruitment selection process. So if you go to the next page, you will see the summary of consultants. There were 2 consulting groups that we had talked with in regards to assisting with this executive recruitment search. But we did not find any consultants in the state of Virginia that specialize in transportation infrastructure recruitment. These 2 that you see here, one located in Rockville, Maryland, the other one located in Summit, New Jersey, were the 2 that were vetted and that were able to provide us with the services that CVTA would be looking for. If you go to page 4, you will see just a summary in regards to the firm Boyden and what they will be able to provide in regards to the executive search assistant, several sectors. They're able to begin immediately. It would be a 12-week total timeline. The flat fee would be $60,000. And of course, additional fees would cover travel, administration, report reproduction, et cetera. And if they present us with a candidate and that candidate leaves within 12 months of his or her start date, Boyden will reinitiate for expenses only a search of the same position at the same level. If you go to page number 5, that is telling a little bit about JDG Associates that is located in Rockville, Maryland. Again, they have served the transportation industry for many, many years. They're also available to begin the search immediately. It would be a 14-week timeline, and the fee is 30% of the first year annual base salary for that position. And again, there are additional fees, administration report reproduction, and also bills for advertising, et cetera. And as indicated before, if a candidate that JDG places, they leave within 12 months, they will basically reinitiate as well. So that's telling you about the 2 consulting firms that we considered and that we feel would be will have the experience to do what we're looking for, what CVTA is looking for in regards to this executive search. So if you go to page 6, we are looking, again, you saw option 1, 2, and 3. If you look at option 1, this is basically the timeline if the HR roundtable, as we did before, would go from cradle to grave, the beginning to the end, what the process would look like. You'll see on their dates stemming from October 31st, which is Monday, all the way through March 31st. And that goes through again, the position is posted for 30 days, pre-screen on December 2nd. We've been through that process before. December 2nd, 16th, review of materials, scheduling interviews. Week of January 2nd, phase 1 interviews. Week of January 16, phase 2 interviews. The 23rd, the background investigation. And 24th through 31st, selecting the candidate with a possible start date for February, March, for that individual to start in that role. And please let me know at any point, if you have any questions. I'll be happy to stop, slow down, and answer questions as we're going through this process. So if you look at the next page, on page number 7, it was for option 2. And this is giving full authority to the consultant group to do the whole process. And again, it will still stem from October 31st, with the RFP process starting. And I'll talk a little bit about that after I'm finished with this presentation. RFP process going from October 31st through November 30th, December 1st to December 30th, going through that whole process. Recruitment profile, position is posted, consultant contacts possible candidates directly. January 2nd through March 3rd, the consultant specifically will pre-screen, schedule interviews, schedule phase 2 interviews, conduct background checks for that, and finalize the selection process. And still February 24th through March 31st, a candidate would be selected with a possible start date during that tenure time. Option 3, which is on page 8 of the presentation, it would be a collaboration between the HR roundtable as well as working with the consultant firm. And again, October 31st through November 30th, the RFP process would still take place. December 1st through December 30th, recruitment profile, position posted, and consultant contacts possible candidates directly. Week of January 2nd, the HR roundtable would then pre-screen and forward application materials as we have done before. Week of January 16th, finalize review of materials and scheduling interviews for the first round. First round of interviews, the phase 1 would take place the week of February 6th. February 20th, phase 2 interviews for selected candidates. Week of February 27th, comprehensive background, and March 31st through the end of April, it would be the selection of the candidate, and March, April with a start date for the new executive director. I know I went through that pretty quickly. Are there any questions from anybody in regards to that, to the presentation that was just presented?
Any questions, members? Go ahead, Mr. Spino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. George, when you mentioned that there would be if the candidate, if the person we hired were to leave, is that on their own accord or by the decision of the body, or both?
Now, and again, it would be both, sir. If you have to terminate for any reason, for non-performance, et cetera, as well as if the candidate resigns from the position.
Thank you, Mr. George. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I just want to, from Finance Committee standpoint, Ms. Dickens Sheets and Ms. Selby also joined Ms. George with the Finance Committee on this discussion. And I think we need to thank them for their hard work that the HR roundtable has put in to help us. As the Finance Committee recommended to this board to go with option 2, but with the understanding that we still need their expertise of the HR roundtable and would use them as a consultant to us during that process.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, just a comment, having gone through this with Ms. Page before, I think, so I'm appreciative again, as Mr. Peterson said, of the work. I think we found last go around at this that the committee needs to, I think, really be crystal on what the scope and responsibilities of the executive director are. I think we launched into discussion sort of towards the end of, is this director, is the goal of the CVTA in the future not just to work on prioritizing projects and ensuring that the monies are associated, but there was also there's been talk of whether this person has the skills to actually administer the transportation projects and ensure that they're moving forward. So however we move forward with whatever of these options, I would hope that we would do whatever we need to ensure that we have the scope of this role as defined as it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I would say that I do concur with what you said, and I think one of the other job requirements from a knowledge point, as localities submit projects for consideration and with estimates, regardless of what locality it is, I would hope that whoever's in that role as executive director will again be able to go over and go through and work with staffs from each locality to make sure that we're getting the best estimates that we can on projects. And that's going to require a special skill set as well. I will say that, yes, this does come in the form of a motion from the Finance Committee to, number one, reinitiate the executive director's recruitment process. So I'm going to start with that and ask that we would do a voice vote and we can certainly entertain, the motion is from the Finance Committee. So I think we have a motion on the floor, and we've had some good discussion on this. So all those in favor of reinitiating the executive director search signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes carry it. The next part of this process is to ask the HR management team to we got to get, I think, the consultant on board. So the action that we're going to look at here is for the Plan RVA staff to release a draft RFP developed by the HR Roundtable as part of the package to initiate the executive search and service. And again, it is a motion from the Finance Committee. So it's on the floor for consideration. And certainly we can have any additional discussion if anybody needs to. Yes.
Sorry to be speaking so much this morning, Mr. Chair. When we do the RFP, I don't know if this body is bound by lowest bid, but one of the things that we found is not.
Not an RFP, no.
Thank you. Okay, then my point is moot. Thanks.
Okay. All those in favor of authorizing Plan RVA to initiate the RFP, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Last part of, and this is, again, this is quite a robust Finance Committee report today, is an action requested for this body to authorize the Finance Committee chair to execute and engage in agreement with the selected firm that we choose as part of that RFP. Does anybody have any questions on that? Essentially, what would happen is when the next finance, once it's put out and we come back with some bids, the next Finance Committee meeting, the Finance Committee will take a look at that and we'll be able to take action. What we're trying to do essentially is put in place an opportunity for us to keep the ball rolling and move this process forward instead of having to bring everything back to full committee. So certainly this will save us, at least we can make a decision in the Finance Committee and then move forward with our next meeting with a report to the full body on where we're at with that. And I would entertain a motion from the floor. And if there's a second, then we can have additional discussion.
So move.
Motion is made. Second by who? Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing or hearing any discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your finance report. Appreciate it. And moving forward to the Technical Advisory Committee report. Come on up. And thank you, HR. Thank you, Yvette George, for that great report today. And there was a lot of information that you got to us. We look forward to moving forward in this process. I just want to make sure.
Thank you so much, sir. You have a good day.
You too.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and authority members. Diana Moore Clark here, CVTA TAC Chair. This morning, I will be giving an update on the items discussed at our CVTA TAC October 12 meeting. Member governments were reminded that the end of September concluded our FY23 first quarter, and that each locality should be working to get their quarterly financial certifications turned in to Chet. I do believe GRTC has submitted theirs at this time. November 4th, member localities should provide Chet with the obligation of regional fund needs for FY21 to 26. Tax Fall Line Working Group did not meet last month, but will attempt to finalize at the November 2nd meeting a spending plan for prioritized segments of the Fall Line Trail unfunded segments. This is important as a large number of segments within Chesterfield, Henrico, and Richmond remain unfunded. The working group will then combine VDOT's Fall Line Trail Design Build Spending Plan along with other regional projects such as I-64 to produce a CVTA allocation spending plan. This item will be geared to being discussed at both the November CVTA TAC and Finance Committee meetings and having for approval by the full authority at its December meeting. The Fall Line Working Group and CVTA TAC will also talk about the best approach to ensuring the state trails budget at some point has dollars for the Fall Line Trail. TAC will work with our CTB representative and members of the authority that can be of help to continue to discuss the funding gap and work towards getting the Fall Line Trail fully funded. Project selection and allocation framework. During the TAC meeting, the members discussed old and new parking lot items to be considered for the annual review update of the project selection and allocation framework. I will be providing key areas under consideration for review changes, not only from the TAC, but from the November's Finance Committee meeting where TAC was asked to, 1, reevaluate the procedures in which CVTA regional dollars are used for smart scale leverage. Currently, TAC is considering producing some form of list percentile ranking of projects that did not get funded or did not score well in smart scale, and that may require approval from the authority to keep the funds on the project, refine the project scope, adjust leveraging amount, or to deobligate or deobligation of the funds from the project. Number 2, consider how cost overruns, project estimates, and project management will be managed. TAC has discussed creating a comprehensive approach that allows the authority to be better prepared for the unknowns of a project. We will begin with the current process used on other regional funding models, such as the Regional Surface Transportation Block Grant, RSTBG, or Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Grant, CMAQ. The Finance Committee asked us to reconsider how roadways were qualified and made eligible for regional funding. TAC will discuss at our November meeting a set of sample projects that TAC will put together to test different project eligibility scenarios. This will provide very helpful insight to guide the TAC on how potential changes will impact the overall framework. This analysis will consist of spatial analysis and the aspects of regionalism, considering smart scale eligibility and meeting VTrans, the state's long-range transportation plan needs. Lastly, TAC is recommending that the regional CVTA funding cycle be every other year. This allows for knowing the outcome of the smart scale process, leveraging future smart scale cycles, and allows during off-cycle time to review, adjust funded projects. This concludes my report, and I can take any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think we might want to clarify that the every other year is off cycle with smart scale.
Yes, thank you, sir.
I guess, and maybe I can ask for some additional information, the fall line wayfinding plan. It's,
Yes, I was gonna let
You-
Chet discuss that.
all right, I would too.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just had hopefully a quick question. Mr. Tyndall mentioned, and I think you mentioned the Fall Line Trail was not a priority at the CTB level at this point. Is there any insight as to why it's not, or?
We just know with the listing that came out, we were told early on that this state trails money would be available. And then subsequently, they selected or have 5 trail projects that they're considering putting dollars on, and the Fall Line Trail was not one of them. And so we again hope that that could change this funding cycle. And if it doesn't change this funding cycle, to begin to try to ensure that it is in the next funding cycle.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Not seeing any other questions. Chet?
Thank you. I did want to take just a second to address Mr. Hodges' question. We do know when the CVTA committed 104 million, Mr. Brown worked to make sure that CTB committed over 40 million to the fall line. So we know that that is a priority of the CTB. We are just now focused on the establishment of the Office of State Trails and making sure that the fall line is still in the discussion for any of the new money that the General Assembly is putting together.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, I just, Chad, I want to just follow up on that and say that Chad did reach out to me. We're going to try to understand better about the state allocation process, but I think, Chad, as he pointed out, through the last funding cycle, $40 million was allocated, and that may have created the perception that the state has made a substantial contribution. But we will investigate that, and we'll come back to you with if there are opportunities to enhance the state's investment in that trail.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Sorry you couldn't be here in person. We understand. And absolutely remember that the CTBI was $42 million. I think exact was the commitment that they made for the Fall Line Trail.
Okay, Mr. Chair, the fall line wayfinding plan, item B2B on the agenda. As Mr. Tyndall shared in his public comments earlier, we are, as a community, we are working together very, very well to make sure that all of the necessary guidelines, requirements are in place for the development of the fall line when that funding is committed. So one of the things that we have identified through the Fall Line Working Group, through the Friends of the Fall Line, through committee meetings, and through this authority itself, is that there is a gap in guidance between what is currently being developed through contract with VDOT, which is a fall line design guide, which is focused on the engineering components of the corridor, design speeds, how to deal with bridges, pavement widths, those kinds of things. And then actually what will guide individual jurisdictions' implementation of the projects when the funding is identified. So there are things that we want to help. We want to make clear for when these development projects are underway in terms of signage, branding, colors, directions to neighborhood spots, parks, all the connections that are going to be created through the development of this amazing corridor. And to do that, we are requesting today action to set aside up to $75,000 to engage a consulting firm to help develop that wayfinding plan, which we think in discussions with Ms. Clark and TAC, that will be the last component necessary to give our member jurisdictions what they need as they start to take individual project segments out for bid and construction. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We do have funds available in our administrative and operating budget, and my recommendation is that is the place to take these funds from and set up an additional line item for this plan.
Any questions of the members from Mr. Parsons relating to this?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. So my question becomes, will the 75,000, is that the CVTA approve that they would be rendering some funding for the Fall Line Trail? Will this come out of their commitment, or are you asking for an additional 75,000?
That's a great question, Ms. Page. I am asking for an additional 75,000 to come from the operating budget. So it won't touch the actual funding that's been set aside for development of the trail. As I said, we do have significant reserves that are carried over from last year in that operating budget for many different reasons. But we think that there's sufficient funding there to cover the cost of this plan. And we would manage this, staff would manage this very similar fashion to what we did with the transit governance project. It was a similar type of thing where we put out an RFP and staff managed the development of the end result, the report. And this is a one-time thing, and we're confident in our ability to make that happen.
Any other questions of members? What I will say to this is that, we want to make sure that certainly when we get our signage up and all of our informational package that gets put together for the community as they're utilizing these resources is consistent, but also tailored, right? So Ashland may have a spin on what they want, Richmond may have a spin on what they want, Hanover may have a spin on what they want. But there's some things that we want to make sure that we're providing, for example, how to get a hold of emergency services, how close they may be to a fire station or to a police station, these type of things. And so I think it's important for us to have a central, I guess, organization such as Plan RVA to help work with the TAC and work with our local jurisdictions to map all of this out for the future so that when it does come down to this, it'll be seamless. So I would entertain a motion in a second if I have one. Yes, sir.
Just a comment. I'm not going to oppose this, but just from what we heard today from Mr. Tyndall of the 43-mile trail, plus the commitments, we've committed already $3.4 million per mile, and now we're saying that we haven't accounted for signage. And then I understand. So once we come up with a plan, are those signs, Mr. Parsons has mentioned this is the last cost for this, but that doesn't mean that the signs, that's just for the plan. That's not for the actual creation. So I just kind of want to point out that we're this sort of creep. It's unfortunate that wasn't included in the 3.4 million per mile already. And just wanted to call that out.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to reallocate the $75,000 from the operating budget to a line item to develop the wayfinding plan for the Fall Line Trail.
And I would second.
Motion's on the floor. Any other discussion on this particular motion that's on the floor? Proper motion and proper second. Not seeing or hearing other discussion, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Atkins?
Aye.
Chair Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Spoonhour?
Aye.
Mr. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Thornton?
Aye.
Ms. Page? Mr. Byerly?
Aye.
Vice Chair Stoney?
Aye.
Delegate Robinson? And Mr. Brown? I believe he has left. That
Thank you.
motion carries.
Thank you very much. Next item is the Vaughn Road grade separation grant application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to take a couple minutes to let the authority know that what we are doing around this table is working and provide a good real life example of how the leveraging that the CVTA is able to do of the regional funds is applicable to making things happen. So as you know, the IIJA, the bipartisan infrastructure law passed by Congress, has over 40 different discretionary grant programs that have been established to provide new funding for transportation improvements around the country. One of those programs, gosh, what's the program? Railroad Crossing Elimination Program had a deadline of early October to submit applications, and staff worked closely with many different partners around the table, most notably the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, to submit an application on behalf of the town of Ashland for the Vaughn Road grade separation project. This is something the Vaughn Road project did get a commitment from the CVTA as one of the 30 projects to receive regional funds, 4.6 million. Working with our partners at DRPT, we were able to estimate a total cost of, I believe, 32 million for the entire project. And through this application process, because we are able to leverage that 4.6 from the CVTA, we were able to get additional local match from the town of Ashland, Hanover County, CSX, and DRPT to successfully be able to submit an application that covers the 20% match required. So if this works out, and I am very hopeful that it does, we will be able to have said we leveraged 4.6 million to get 32, and this will be a great illustration of being able to use our regional funding that's been collected through this authority to make things happen. And this is just one of many opportunities we're going to have through this federal program and all of the new money that's available to make improvements in our region. So thanks for everybody's assistance with this.
Very good. Any comments?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Hodges.
the town of Ashland appreciates DRTP and all the folks that help with this, and we appreciate being the pilot for leveraging CVTA money. So thank you all.
Well, we appreciate you doing it.
It's a worthy project.
Yes, oh, absolutely. Under other business, I'm going to ask Chet to just give everybody a quick update on where we're at with the new office space. I think that was the last Vaughn Road was the last one.
Yes, sir.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I'm going to get you to. Yeah, I don't think we need to vote on it. No. Good, real quick.
Yes, thank you very much. I am, by virtue of my seat at the table, I get to share good news, but I don't want to overlook the work that Martha's doing to manage this entire move, and it's been an overwhelming endeavor. So I know that there have been tours. I believe Mr. Peterson was able to take a tour this week, along with others on the Plan RBA Finance Committee. But the project is well underway. I believe that sheetrock is up and glass got installed this week. So we are looking forward to making that transition to the new space on Hull Street over the next few months, and look forward to continuing to work with each of you to take tours as we prepare for using the new space and learning how parking works and walking the sidewalks to all the new destinations that are right there in the Manchester community. We do have some exciting things underway, and look forward to sharing the finished space with all of you by the end of the year, hopefully.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Peterson. Oh, I'll get to you 1 second. I think you had his hand up first. Yes, Frank.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to ask Mr. Parson, could you clarify a little bit more about the parking challenge we may have over there?
That's a good question.
Yes, sir. I can try. There is next to the building, there is an attached parking garage, which will have space for all of our board members for meetings and other needs that you have to use the facility. I believe there will be a key fob system or similar method to access and use the space when we need to be there. So we will be making sure that those instructions are clear for everyone so that there is not, there's a limited amount of confusion. It's going to take some time, as we all know, learning to navigate a new area, but we're excited about the opportunity.
And I would definitely park in the parking deck because crossing the road is challenging. Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Mr. Peterson.
Yes, we will need some wayfinding there. initially.
That was pretty good right there.
Mr. Chair, we have had occasion, our financial consultants, PFM, have indicated that they will be having some subcontractors helping in the service to our organization. And I believe they're looking for some recognition from us that they're doing so. So if we could let Mr. Gregory bring us up to date on that.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Chairman, members of the body. Yes, as you know, as part of engaging PFM as your financial advisor, they, as part of that procurement, they engaged with two subcontractors, Hannahberg, Hurlburt, and Sustainable Capital Advisors, to work with you. And that was part of the RFP that you issued and part of the contract that you awarded to them to provide those services. So what they're asking for now is a simple acknowledgement under the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board best practices. They are the best practices to obtain from the client an acknowledgement of the subcontractor relationship. They had initially requested that CVTA sign off on not to be part of that agreement necessarily, but to sign off on those subcontractor agreements as part of the agreement as acknowledging. But what we've recommended is that the body just simply issue a letter to PFM acknowledging that subcontractor relationship, which we believe would satisfy the MSRB best practices expectation. So that's our recommendation. We can, if it's at the body's pleasure, we will work with PFM to provide that letter over the signature of the chairman, and that's what we're requesting. No, I don't think we need any motion, but if you would like to pass a motion to that effect, we'd be happy to entertain it.
Mr. Chairman, just to keep it clear above board, I will make the motion that this board directs you to recognize the subcontracts for PFM.
Yes, sir. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor, second. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Voice vote should be sufficient for that.
Mr.
Last
Chairman?
thing, yes.
I'd like to take this moment briefly to thank you for coming to Powhatan County this week and sharing your compendious presentation. It was very,
Did Frank
very
give you
well
that word?
received. It was very well received, as you stated, and the explanation was good, and it showed the benefit of this organization, this authority to the citizens, which that explanation and being able to go out and publicly spread the good word, I think helps out without any doubt. So thank you very much for coming to Powhatan County and spending that time to
It
share.
was my honor to, in this role that you all bestowed upon me to be able to do that. And, one of the things that we've always had under discussion, starting when under Frank's tutelage, Mr. Thornton's tutelage as chair, is that we need to get the word out. And so I look forward to, as a reminder, any other jurisdiction that has not scheduled for me to come. Chet will be coming with me and will be participating as part of the presentation. And so I would look forward to, for any other jurisdiction would like us to come out and do the same thing, we'd be happy to do it. I have asked Mr. Hodges to chair a committee to look at what we talked about, which is the leadership rotation in the future. And so if someone's interested in serving that committee, looking for two other members, and they'll work with staff to come up with a recommendation for a similar rotation like we have for Plan RVA and I think the Richmond TPO. Any other members have anything that they would like to report?
I just wanted to know, Mr. Chair, everyone seems to talk about the length of time that you talk at these meetings.
Uh-oh.
And so when New Kent sends their invite, how much time should we be setting aside on their agenda for your presentations?
You tell me what I had to work it into, and I'll work it into. Be
Thank you,
happy to
sir.
do that. Any other members?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I wanted to, I have no voice left after the governor's transportation conference. Wanted to make a staff announcement for DRPT. We have a new chief of public transportation. I'm very grateful to have backfilled my old job. Zach Trogdon joined us earlier this week. He will become my alternate for CVTA. He comes with a great background in this region. He served as a county administrator in Charles City and most recently was the executive director at Williamsburg Area Transit. So you will likely see him here more than me in the future, but wanted to make you aware of that staff change.
Thank you very much. Next meeting is at the airport, I believe. Is that right? Is everybody familiar with the conference room at the airport? If not, we'll make sure we get good directions to everybody. And Mr. Thornton.
Mr. Chairman, I want to compliment you as you continue the leadership of this august organization. And I also want to mention to my colleagues something we discussed in the past is very important, in my opinion. That is, as the CVTA continues to go forward and to build its structure, let us keep in mind for the benevolence and for the raison d'etre of CVTA that we not only ask for the members to be very creative in what they bring to us, but also demand that other agencies who normally would finance transportational initiatives to continue to do that. Because I think if we don't follow that, we don't want the CVA to become a cash cow for someone, other organization. So it's just only good policy on our part to make sure that we do our stellar job, but still ask those other state agencies to do their due diligence.
Excellent point. And when I'm in representing this organization at the VACO conference coming up on stage with the Secretary of Transportation, I'll make sure I remind him of that as well. Any other members? I want to say thank you for coming to Chesterfield today. Yes, Chet.
Just housekeeping, just want to remind everyone, due to the holidays over the next November and December, we have one combined meeting that is on the schedule. That's December 2nd. So we'll be a little shift in our regular meeting schedule.
I hope everybody has a very safe and happy Halloween. We had our trunk or treat here at the county fairgrounds the other day, and it was a great success. Everybody had a great time. So if there's no other comments or anything from any of the members, this meeting will stand adjourned.